We're live. Okay, thank you. My name is Sue McCordoff, and I am the mayor of Oasis. I am taking this opportunity to address all of you before we officially start the public hearing. Many of you who own properties in the C5 and other zones that may be affected by the proposed zoning amendment have written to express concerns about not being able to attend this meeting in person. The town of Oasis, like other municipalities in BC, is unable to permit in-person attendance at town council meetings and public meetings by virtue of a ministerial order in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. In light of these orders, the Minister of Municipal Affairs, Josie Osborne, advised municipalities and regional districts that new permanent authorities allow them to hold virtual and hybrid meetings and public hearings. We are holding a virtual electronic via Zoom or by phone meeting today. In the Oasis Council chambers today, we have CAO Alan Chabot, Deputy Corporate Officer Ann Hilson, Director of Planning and Development Services Gina McKay, Councillor Jim King, and me. Joining on Zoom are Councillor Brian Harvey and Councillor CJ Rhodes. Councillor Myers Bennett has recused himself due to a perceived conflict of interest as he lives on a site that may be affected by the proposed zoning amendment bylaw. Several of the emails received by the town asked us to abandon or deny the zoning amendment, suggesting that what we have presented is illegal or the process followed is improper. Please know that the town is following the legislative and procedural processes for any zoning amendment during this time. That is, that the planning director will bring a report to a council meeting. Council would then ask questions and make the decision to give the amendment first and second readings. That action triggers a public hearing, which is being held today. There is no attempt, deliberate or otherwise, to deny interested persons the opportunity to present their views on the matter. Legally, the town could have waived the requirement for a public hearing because the proposed amendment is consistent with the town's OCP, Official Community Plan. Instead, the town is allowing members of the public that feel their interests are affected by the proposed bylaw amendment to present their views to council. There is a 2014 news article from the Oasis Times that several of you have included in your emails to us. In 2014, one town councillor noted that it is crucial that local RV park owners be involved in discussions with town staff informing the new bylaw. In fact, that is just what we are doing now. Our past planning director also noted the need for a comprehensive zoning bylaw review, which is being planned. We agree that clear and consistent regulations and messaging is key to moving forward. I am troubled by the accusations and lack of respect that some of the email respondents have shown to our town staff and to council. Baseless allegations of impropriety or accusations of illegal behavior will not be tolerated and are not considered in decision-making. Thank you. I will now open the public hearing. So we have a resolution to exclude the public, and I will need a motion, please, that in accordance with Ministerial Order M192, the Town of Oasis Public Hearing Council is closed to the public due to the inability to meet physical distancing recommendations made under the Public Health Act in council chambers located at 8707 Main Street. And that to ensure openness, transparency, accessibility, and accountability, the Town of Oasis public hearing is recorded and streamed on the town's website. Councillor King, would you like to? Councillor King, Councillor Rhodes seconding that. Thank you very much. All in favor. Thank you. I will read the statement of the chair. The public hearing is convened pursuant to section 464 of the Local Government Act, RSBC 2015, to allow the public to make representation to council respecting matters contained in zoning amendment bylaw number 1085.134, 2021. Every person present who believes that their interest in property is affected by the proposed bylaw shall be given a reasonable opportunity to be heard respecting matters contained in the proposed bylaw. None of you will be discouraged or prevented from making your views known. However, it is important that you restrict your remarks to matters contained in the proposed bylaw. If you wish to speak, once it is time for public representation, please virtually raise your hand. If you are unsure how to do so, you can find the information on the town's website, oasis.ca/content/public hearings. It will be your turn to speak once your name or phone number has been called. Your microphone will be unmuted, and you may commence your remarks by clearly stating your name and address. Once you have finished speaking, your microphone will be muted. If they wish, members of council may ask you questions following your presentation. However, the function of council at this public hearing is to listen to you rather than to debate the merits of the proposed bylaw. In accordance with the council procedure bylaw, presentations by members of the public shall be limited to a maximum of 5 minutes each. If a person has additional information that they are unable to provide within that time frame, they shall be given further opportunity to address council after all other interested members of the public have been heard a first time. Please refrain from applause or other expressions of emotion during this public hearing so that we may ensure as impartial a hearing as possible. After this public hearing is adjourned, council members will not speak to the public on this matter until after the matter has been dealt with at a public meeting. After this public hearing has concluded, council may, without further notice, give whatever effect council believes proper to the representations made at this hearing. And I will confirmation of advertising and posting requirements. Notice of this public hearing was given in accordance with the Local Government Act and the Community Charter by distributing the notice as follows. Publishing in 2 consecutive editions of the Times Chronicle on May the 5th and May the 12th, 2021. Placing the notice on the bulletin boards in the town office and Planning and Development Services Department on May the 5th. Posting the notice on the town's website on May the 5th and distributing via e-news on May the 5th. Notices to property owners in the area will not be issued as per section 4667. The notification requirement does not apply if 10 or more parcels owned by 10 or more persons are the subject of the bylaw alteration. And now the summary of the staff report. The purpose of this meeting is to seek public input on zoning bylaw amendment number 1085.134, 2021, which received first and second reading on April the 13th, 2021. Zoning amendment bylaw number 1085.134, 2021 proposes to amend the definition for a recreational vehicle by replacing the current definition with the following. Recreational vehicle, or RV, means any vehicle, trailer, coach, structure, or conveyance permanently fitted with wheels designed to travel or be transported on a highway and equipped to be used for recreational living and sleeping purposes without requiring continuous connection to sewage, water, and electric hookups, and specifically excludes park models in accordance with the CSAZ 241 standards and tiny homes. I will now ask Ms. McKay to present her report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor McCordock. So background. Staff in the Planning and Development Department continue to receive inquiries about the placement of park models on properties within the recreational vehicle park campground zone, that is the C5 zone, and within the highway commercial, that is the C4 zone. Both of these zones were intended to provide for tourist accommodation on a seasonal or temporary basis. They were not intended to provide for year-round accommodation or the placement of permanent or semi-permanent units on individual RV sites. Staff determined that inconsistency and uncertainty with respect to the placement of park miles or the use of these sites for residential purposes has been due in part to the ambiguity in the definition of recreational vehicle found in the zoning bylaw. Proposed bylaw amendment number 1085.134, 2021 seeks to solidify the intent of the official community plan by amending the definition of recreational vehicle to specifically exclude park malls and tiny homes from locating in recreational vehicle parks. So a little overview. The C5 zone was intended to accommodate recreation vehicle parks and campgrounds. The definition I'm going to give you from the zoning bylaw illustrates that point, that the uses of these sites were intended to be temporary or seasonal. That is to say, recreational vehicle park means a parcel of land designed, developed, maintained, and capable of providing accommodation on a temporary or seasonal basis. As noted, town staff also received inquiries about the redevelopment of some of the older hotels and motels in Oasis. Pardon me. These sites are zoned C4 or highway commercial. The C4 zone allows for campgrounds, and the definition of campground is as follows. Campground means a facility intended for the temporary accommodation of travelers in recreational vehicles or tents that specifically excludes a mobile home park. Developers and investors inquiring about the C4 zone properties are asking specifically about how to move forward with the Stradalot campground, similar in nature to those operating throughout the community. Staff note that the stratification or shared ownership models currently in place in existing recreational vehicle parks has, in some cases, resulted in year-round occupancy contrary to zoning. This has also resulted in reduced availability for commercial occupancy for visitors to the community. With respect to the recreational vehicle park definition, in a review of our definition of recreational vehicle, we note that park malls are not specifically mentioned. That is, our current definition is as follows. Recreation vehicle means a vehicle capable of being used as a temporary accommodation for travel or recreation purposes, including a motorhome, truck, camper, fifth wheel trailer, camper trailer, and tent trailer. Although not specifically identified, the intent was to exclude park models due to the fact that once they're placed on the site, it renders the site unavailable for use by another recreational vehicle. Specifically, park models are designed for longer term or permanent placement at a destination by virtue of the fact that it's necessary for them to be connected to utilities, that is water, sewer, electrical hookups, in order to operate. Staff are also having difficulty regulating the siting and addressing the inappropriate separation between units. In some cases, park models, trailers, and motorhomes have been added onto with decks and additions such that there remains very little space for parking on individual RV sites. This can result in difficulty for emergency vehicles to access the area or increase the risk of fire spread should a fire break out. Most recently, we've determined that in some cases, site owners have now applied for the BC Homeowners Grant for park model units in areas zoned for temporary commercial accommodation use. The grant, of course, reduces the amount of property tax you pay for your principal residence. It was not intended to be applied to commercially zoned properties designed for temporary recreational accommodation. So the next steps would be as follows. This bylaw amendment under consideration will put a pause on the placement of additional park malls in zones which allow for recreational vehicles. The future update of the zoning bylaw will provide an opportunity for more discussion about these matters. And it's important to note, most importantly, I guess, for many people, that park models that are currently located within recreational vehicle parks will not be required to be removed. So the implications, Madam Mayor, for the community, again, consistent, clear, and effective regulations continue to be the cornerstone of transparent governance and overall community health. Staff in the Planning and Development Department, including the building inspector, benefit from having clearly identified objectives and direction in the bylaws that they refer to on a daily basis. Now, there are no updates. This proposed update to the zoning bylaw has no implications to our budget. And significant dates, again, the mayor mentioned that notification of the public hearing was placed as required under the Local Government Act. Sustainability, the long-term sustainability of our community and the surrounding area is achieved through good planning practices that are proactive. Now, the options before council today, again, with this report, there are no options to council or recommendations, and this will be discussed at a future council meeting. Thank you, Mayor Portoff.
Thank you very much, Ms. McKay. So the next part of our public hearing is to acknowledge that we have had 112 submissions from members of, I would assume mostly people that are owners of the properties in question. What we're going to do is you will have a maximum of 5 minutes each. What you Miss Brianne, Mrs. Hilson is going to look after this part of it. Normally, I have a list of the people who wish to speak. That is changed today because we have that showing on our screen. So you need to have a look at the instructions on the town's website where you click to join. That will show you how to do it. And if you wish to speak, you need to virtually raise your hand, please. And Mrs. Hilson will call out either the names or the last 4 digits of their phone number, if that's what's showing up instead of the name. So I will keep an eye on this with Mrs. Hilson, and she will now do that. And you heard her say, or us say, that when it is your turn to speak, Mrs. Hilson will unmute you, and it will be your turn to speak. And then when you're finished, we will mute you again, and the next person will be called. Okay, so we're going to start with anyone who wishes to speak to virtually raise their hands. And I'll ask Mrs. Hilson, please, to let me know who's coming, who's going to speak first.
So the first person to speak will be Mas Oyama Kishaki Karate. So they have been asked to unmute.
So,
Hello,
oh, good afternoon. Go ahead, please.
good afternoon, Mayor and Council. My name is Leo Van den Bogard. I am an owner at the Oasis RV Park, 2615 Lakeshore Drive. And I'm speaking against this bylaw, obviously. I'm requesting that you abandon it. I take exception to a few of the things that have been mentioned in this proposal. The park models, due to the fact that once they are placed in site, renders it unavailable for use for any other recreational vehicle. I've been coming to Oasis for 35 years, and since the Oasis was privatized, we've had an RV park model trailer on the site permanently. And we've upgraded now to a modular home, or built by Moduline, so it's a park model, and it doesn't affect anything. Like to me, it doesn't make any sense. The comment about being connected to the sewer and the water, the connections are exactly the same as what it was on my trailer. Staff is also having difficulty regulating the siting and addressing. We have a very good management team appointed by all owners in the park, and with direction from the township, we have the siting of our sites is scrutinized by them, and there's no freelancing here. It's all controlled. The point about eliminating remaining camping sites within the township of Osoyoos. I mean, rumor has it that the Shady Lagoon across the lake has been sold and it's going to be developed. And that development, if it happens, that would have to come through council. And I'm at odds there. Like, if we're talking about saving campsites, that doesn't make any sense. But personally, for myself, when you're talking about opening it up to campsites, and I look at the contribution that I am personally making to the community of Osoyoos by spending more than just transient summer vacation, which is a window from maybe May to the end of September, where I have access to my place. I can come here, within the guidelines. I have access to it all year round. So I'm contributing. If I'm here, I'm contributing to the community all year round. And that's basically what I wanted to cite. I am also a 37-year retired firefighter. And when someone makes a comment about, access for emergency vehicles, I question, if this was a concern, why that person didn't go to the firefighters or the fire department from Osoyoos and ask them to come to the park and do a site evaluation. I mean, after the fire, the fire that everybody's talking about, this big fire that they had in Summerland, that was like 10 years ago, 11 years ago. You would think that a firefighters would come and check out their area. That's what we do as professional firefighters. We call it district check. You go and you check. You're looking for obstacles. You're looking for impediments to fighting an emergency fire. In all my time here, I have never seen a firefighter.
Thank you very much, but your 5 minutes is up, and I thank you
No,
for
we've
your.
got another 15
Oh, I'm
seconds.
sorry.
Sorry, I was saying 1 minute.
Sorry, go ahead. You've got another 50 seconds. I apologize.
No, I mean, just in closing, I would really like council to really take a strong look at why this has to happen, and the sort of the negative implications to the township of preventing this or having this bylaw come forward. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak.
Thank you very much.
Next
Okay.
would be Rick Fleming, so just.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr.
Oh,
Fleming.
no, he's not.
I'm sorry.
Now he would be ready.
Okay. You should be able to hear me now.
Yes,
Yes,
he can.
thank you. Go ahead, please.
Okay, my name is Rick Fleming, and I'm only speaking on behalf of myself and my wife from the Oasis RV at 2615 Lakeshore Drive. I want to talk about the positives of having park models in the city, not the negative stuff. I've already sent in a letter and I put down my reasons in my letter, but I also want to talk about the positive situation here. Every person that puts a park model on the site here spends money at the home hardware, at the hardware store, at the grocery store. And I sure hope some of the business community is paying attention to this. Because if you kick all people out and you say that this is only a 6-month city, it's not a 6-month city. It's a 12-month resort town now. People come here, they spend the summer, they rent their park models in the winter. Because you can rent a park model because it's comfortable in here. Try renting a 22 or 24-foot travel trailer with the furnace going 24 hours a day. I'm very, very disappointed in the fact that this has been going on for 15 years. And the only way you figure you can fix this problem is to change the bylaw. I sat on the board here for 2 years, and like the previous speaker said, we have stringent rules about where the placement of a park model goes, how close it can be to the road, how close it can be to the property lines. And we keep that very, very well in. We operate under a very tight building inspection once a person puts it in. And if it's wrong, he has to move it. And in the last little while, one was wrong. It was too close to the front fence. The board made the individual move his trailer back 3 feet. We don't deal with people that aren't willing to work alongside us here. I actually tried to work with Councilman Rose to think that maybe we could have a committee and work on all these issues. And he was very receptive to it, but unfortunately, I don't know where that went, but that's also in my letter. And I don't know, there is no affordable housing for people in Oasis. I know that there's a few people that live. I had to stay in my park model this year because unfortunately I wasn't able to go to my sunny vacation site close to Councilman Rhodes and listen to his margarita machine. We stayed here. Guess what we did? We spent money at the grocery store. We spent money at the coffee shop, and we spent money in the community. People that stay here for the winter time, even the renters that stay in park models here, spend money in the city. It's a good thing. And I can tell you the emergency vehicles don't have any problem getting around here because unfortunately my wife has been picked up 3 times by an ambulance here. And they did not say anything about having any trouble getting down our street. The ambulance people were awesome. We've never, ever had a problem here. So I'm very, like I worked in a situation where you work with people. I was a union rep for years. You have to work and work. You can't just legislate things. They never work when you do that. People get angry, they get their backs up. And, there is, like I said, there's no affordable housing. I know one individual that when he sold his business, he now lives in Greenwood. It's a long way for me to go have a coffee with him because there isn't anything to buy around here for the average person that doesn't have a big pocketbook. And I guess that's what comes with the fact that it's a beautiful place to be. But I am totally against changing this bylaw. I'm not against working with the city to work on these issues, but just to change a bylaw to fix a problem that's been here for 15 years because you can't figure out how to fix the problem, I don't think is correct. So thank you for letting me share. And I do have a letter on file, and hopefully there are a couple other points addressed in that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we do have every letter that everyone has sent. We have copies of them, and they are, you will see that if you've looked at the agenda, all of those letters, and Mr. Fleming, you have 2 of them in there. So we do know that yours are part of our agenda. Okay, thank you, Mrs. Hilson.
Do you want to ask, just after, if council has questions?
Any counselor that has a question, when someone speaks, please just put your hand up and we will, go ahead, Councillor Rhodes, please.
Thank you, Member Kordoff. Not necessarily a question, more of a comment. Many of the folks from, that have been kind of presenting here right now, they have a better understanding of this bylaw if it's made perfectly clear that this is a universal bylaw, that this is not just about the Oasis Park. There's many, many other parks in the community, and we're trying to encompass all of those. And, personally, I understand that the Oasis may be, constructed for emergency vehicles and, access and all that kind of thing, like the previous caller mentioned. However, that is not the case with all of the RV parks. And as we move forward with this process, it's important to understand that we are not picking on any individual park, that it is a universal bylaw covering all of the locations.
Thank you very much, Councillor Rhodes. I'm going to make one other comment from one of the past presenters who talked about the Shady Lagoon. And I just want you to know that that particular park, yes, they're going through some changes, but it is in Area A. It is not in the town, so it is not in our jurisdiction. Okay, Mrs. Hilson, do we have another person who would like to speak?
Yes, we do. Next will be Corey and Bev Dole.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Dole.
Hello, just make sure you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you very much for taking my concern. I've also sent an email in, like Mr. Fleming. I'm from Oasis Resort, 2615 Lakeshore Drive. I'm also a homeowner in this town. Once I became a park model owner, I fell in love with the town and I decided to buy a home here. I've actually been in front of council just recently for the application to change the zoning or on a variance on my home. And you guys will be familiar with the 39 Harbor Key, where I asked for a setback adjustment so that I could put up a patio and an awning on my place. So I wanted to make a comment that I say I've sent in my email with the detailed concerns. But since then, you know, I've had a lot of time to think about this, and there's been a new problem that's happened at our park, that a sale has failed. And I'm one of these people that came to you, and I actually had to send an email to you because I wasn't getting a response from your staff, Mayor, and have your staff respond to me about getting a permit to put my park model in. Your staff advised me that I don't need a permit, and that I've put a house or a park model unit in my place, and I don't have a permit. But now my place has become unsaleable. So I'm sitting on a piece of property and a park model unit where I've invested roughly $350,000 to $400,000, and I've bought a home in town, and I'm finishing off my home in my town. I'm selling my home in the Lower Mainland, and I will retire here. I expect to be able to sell my home for what I've got at least invested in it. And because I don't have a permit, nobody's going to touch it. So I'm going to be out 100,000, 200,000. I have no clue what I'm going to be out, but I know that somebody with a permit in this resort was unable to complete the sale in their house recently because of the concerns with this decision that's coming in front of council. So this leaves me in a very difficult position, unfortunately, that I'm going to end up losing thousands and thousands of dollars if I can't sell my home. So where do I go from here? Well, the only avenue I see is I either get a lot of other owners involved or myself, and I have to hire counsel and I have to sue the city, because when I approached the city about a permit, they said I don't need it. Now they're throwing that we didn't put a place in with a permit, and we're in this kind of tough decision. And the last thing I want to do, as you saw my previous application, I'm trying to do everything legal and work within the town laws. I was told I don't need it, and now you're going to take half the value of my property. This is a large portion of my retirement that I want to be in this city. And to be honest, I'm not going to sit back as a homeowner and be, take $100,000, $200,000 of my retirement away because you guys make a simple decision. So would I gather everybody possibly to go and try to defend myself? Yes. Is that going to work out really well in a decision overall for the city, for ourselves? We're all going to spend a lot of money to fight over something that should have been, as Mr. Fleming had mentioned, resolved 15, 20 years ago. I'm completely open to having a full inspection of my property to make sure that I'm within all the rules and applications, but I was never allowed that. I was denied that application. So it puts me in a very, very difficult position. So it's a very unfortunate situation. And I agree with Mr. Fleming in the effect that there should have been maybe a council or not a council, a group put together to be able to communicate with council on how to work this as best as possible for all parties so that it can be worked out. The second part I want to miss really quickly, because I know I'm running out of time here, is CJ made a comment of we're encompassing everybody's properties. It's not picking on the Oasis Resort. And that's a really easy blanket statement to say, but unfortunately, you still just reduced the value of my property. by putting me into that same blanket as everybody else. So at this point in time, you know, I've probably lost half the value of my home, and I'm not going to stand down for a couple of $100,000. It's just not going to happen. So sorry, I might sound defensive that way, but I'm protecting my own asset that I've invested in and I've spent a lot of money in this town fixing my place up to be the most beautiful place I can. So thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. And I'll let somebody else speak.
Thank you, Mr. Dole. Okay, Mrs. Hilson?
Does nobody has questions? Okay.
No, nobody put their hand up, then we don't have a question.
There's 5
we're-
people there.
No,
Yeah.
not council. So
Only
next,
just council.
next is Jacqueline Casa.
Go ahead, please. This is Casa.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello, yes. Go
Hi,
ahead, please.
good evening. It's actually Drew Casa. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Casa.
Okay, great. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just want to go through a little history of the Oasis. My wife and I own 2 park models at the Oasis at 2615 Lakeshore Drive. I am also past president of the Oasis. I was on the board for 8 years. I was also on the transition committee when our park was turned over to the co-owners from the developer. My wife and I have been going to the Oasis for 40 years. We were one of the first to buy into the park in 2001, 20 years ago. The developer had placed a park model on site number 1 at the entrance, and he used it as a show home and sold lots. Dennis Tomlin, the previous building inspector, signed off on our development November 7th, 2000. Our own bylaws list park models as an approved RV in our park, and this was included in the documents we signed with the lawyer when we purchased. In 2003, I worked with Dennis Tomlin on the placement of our 2 park models, and he issued me a building permits to build a sunroom on one and a deck and patio cover on the other. To say that the intent of the city was to exclude park models due to the fact that once they are placed on a site, it renders that site unavailable for use by any other recreational vehicle actually contradicts what we are allowed. You, the city, actually gave us unrestricted use. Our park currently has 70 park models. People purchased with the intent to put a park model on their lot. This is a brief history that shows actually that park models were allowed right from the beginning. To me, if the town is trying to create more camping areas for visitors with recreational vehicles, I think the focus needs to be on the development of RV parks and not multifamily. I think you need to actually stop trying to change what is already being approved and passed. All the reasons for your change, what you have presented, do not really, in my mind, hold water. I think if you persist on this path to amend zoning bylaw 1085, it will only result in a legal battle, as some have already said. I think you need to revisit the real reason for this amendment and find another way to achieve what you want. I'm not aware of anyone in favor of this change, so I therefore object to the zoning bylaw amendment number 1085 134 2021 park model definition, and I suggest that you leave things as they are. So I would like to thank you for your time this evening and allowing me to speak.
Thank you very much, Mr. Casa. I don't see any hands, so we'll go on to the next person who has their hand up.
Sure. Just 1 second. Next will be I Wells.
Yeah, good evening, Council and Mayor. How are you doing tonight?
Good evening. Go ahead,
Good.
please.
Good, thank you. My name is Ian Wells. I have a property at Island View RV Resort, so we'll switch it up a little bit from Oasis. There are other places. First and foremost, I've been an owner there for many years. We just absolutely love Oasis. You think about the drive in from the lower mainland, you come down, you see the lake, and it's magnificent. And we just absolutely love the community. Connected with so many people there. We have spent so much money, time, and effort to build our property at Island View RV Resort. And, one of the things that I just want to share with you is on my BC assessment on there, the lot actually is shown on BC assessment at Island View Park Resort as a manufactured home park. And that's actually on my BC assessment. So I'm not sure if council was aware of that or has seen that, but I want to share that. The other part is, listening to some of the comments that were raised earlier, I do want to speculate that on the Lakeshore Drive and 60th Avenue, the town of Oasis did recently change that lot from that was actually going to be a C4 and has zoned it to, I believe, townhomes or something to that effect. So that's actually happened within the town site, if I'm correct. That is correct, right?
You go ahead and talk.
Okay. Yeah,
Mr.
so
Wells.
we'll get to that in a second.
We're
Yeah.
not going to answer questions right
Yeah,
now.
no problem.
Thank
And I
you.
think, so the other part I just wanted to share with you is, when you look at what's being proposed to what can happen, there's ways to doing things. I think, communication is key, connecting with the strata presidents of these parks to sit down, have a discussion, what's viable, to even think about, do we put in bylaws or do we think about rezoning? The other part is thinking about what is an equitable dollar for the town of Oasis to bring in from a taxation standpoint, rezoning and making it, looking versus bylaw, enforcement and changing bylaws into zoning and looking at what you can do from a tax bracket makes a lot more sense, is a lot more equitable, and it helps protect the investment of those who have already invested into these sites. Myself and my family, we have invested really our savings into putting in a park model. We did it with a permit. We have spent thousands of dollars with the local community. I can think of Action Plumbing, the owners there. I can think of Nathan and his brother. I can think of Martin at C3, all of these communities. And I can think about, Home Hardware and the thousands of dollars we have spent there in this community. And don't think for a second that, yes, tourists coming in, absolutely important and a critical part of an economy. But also those who are owners in these sites and these areas are also an incredible amount of money invested that's put into this town. And I know you may not see us all the time, but we're there and we continue to love and to invest in this town and invest in our properties to make sure that that investment, is there for the long term, but also we're doing things the right way. The last comment I just want to build on, and that is, at the very beginning, the gentleman who was retired fire department that spoke is, every place should have a site plan. So the fire department should have a site plan in place for every RV resort that's there. And I don't believe that the town of Oasis and the fire department actually has a registered site plan on how to fight fire should it ever happen or occur in each one of these RV resorts. So just a suggestion there. But, I appreciate it. I would also just close in this and say, what? I would highly suggest, as a council and mayor, that you reconsider your position and how you're positioning this. It's only going to cause hardship, and there are different ways of doing things. So I thank you for your time, and I appreciate just being able to have the voice on this. Have a good night.
Thank you, Mr. Wells. Mrs. Hilson? Nobody has their hand up, so we're okay. Go ahead to the next person, please.
Next will be I've actually got on my list, Tammy Rosengren.
So did you?
Oh, there we go. I'm another resident or vacationer from Oasis. My family and I, we have camped in Oasis for the last 37 years. it's been a place that we've always loved to go to. And when the opportunity came up to purchase the park model and lot at Oasis, our whole entire family were ecstatic about it. Being able to be there is wonderful. The park model we bought was already there. It's a 2003. And the other thing I want to say is with, you know, you're talking about us spending money and everything in there. There's a lot of teachers in that, in Oasis, and probably in the other parks as well, who spend Christmas, all long weekends, spring breaks. I stay there for the entire summer, having my grandchildren, my children, my friends and family come up, who are all contributing to the economy of Oasis. And we weren't able to do that before, when we could only go to a campground. So we've brought in more business, more people who love it, more people who want to stay in the hotel. So we're actually promoting the town. That's all the positive things that I have to say. I guess the only negative thing that I have to say is because of the lack of definition from council right from the onset, and this back and forth, and you guys are trying to change it all, it's just going to create financial distress for many residents in all of these places, as well as going to cause financial distress throughout the year for the local businesses as well, because we have spent thousands of dollars in less than a year we've owned there. So that's all I have to say. And if anybody wants to take the rest of my time, please feel free.
Go ahead, Mrs. Hilson.
Mrs. Rosenberg didn't state her address.
Oh, Mrs. Rosenberg, could you state your address, please?
Yes, I'm so sorry. It's 2615 Lakeshore Drive.
Okay, thank you very much. Go ahead, Mrs. Hilson. Is there someone else?
Yes. Next, I have John Gordon was on my list. Do you want to ask John Gordon if he wishes to speak? Because he was next on my
John
list.
Gordon? Would you like to speak, Mr. Gordon?
Yes.
Well, go ahead, please.
Actually, this one, hang on, sorry. Is that better?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Go ahead, please.
Hello?
Go ahead, please. Yes, go ahead. We can hear you.
Hello?
I can't hear.
Is it volume up? What's happening?
Could
Sorry, can you hear us now?
Yes, we can.
Apologies, we were having some technical difficulties. This is Audrey Gordon and John Gordon
Go
attending.
ahead, please. Yeah.
We are co-owners at Oasis RV Resort at 2615 Lakeshore Drive. We too have submitted an objection letter. I just want to actually echo and thank Drew Casa for putting some background context into this whole situation. We have been going to Oasis for 35 years. We camped at Walton's Mountain, or what was it called? We camped there, then we camped at Oasis, and then we had this wonderful opportunity to finally buy a piece of property in Oasis, and it was a dream come true for us. And unlike some of the other owners, we weren't able to put a park model on our site. We bought in 2003. We had a tent trailer at the time that we traded in and got a trailer because our bylaws didn't allow a tent trailer. So we bought our trailer and we have been going there. We live in Saskatchewan. We have been going there every year from usually we go out in June for probably 2 or 3 weeks, and we go back again and stay for about 6 weeks in the summer. And our trailer stays on our site. We finally have gotten into a position where we've finalized our plan for our park model. We were literally in the midst of finalizing a few small details in the final plan when this whole situation arose. And another gentleman talked about the value of the properties, and the implications that this bylaw has is astounding. That poor man talked about losing his retirement. What about us? We are in a park that 90% or more of the properties have park models on them. We're finally in a position that we can finally afford it, and you're going to rip the rug out from underneath us. And not to mention whatever we're going to lose in terms of deposits or anything else. It is incredibly discriminatory to suggest that it's, the people that already have park models, well, you're not going to take them away and that's going to be an okay solution. It's also very confusing what it is you're trying to achieve. I'm not going to have a camper. We can't have tent trailers in our lot. We can't have tents in Oasis. We don't want them. I'm not going to have those kind of people on my property that I paid for and I bought based on the developer's plan. As Drew Casa said, there's a show home there that was in a park model that was all approved from the town of Osoyoos. This is just an incredibly unfair, discriminatory approach. And it doesn't meet the needs that you're talking about. I'm not gonna pull my trailer off so people can rent it when I'm not there. I'm not gonna do that. And I just think you need to really look at what it is you're trying to achieve. If you don't want people residing there for more than 180 consecutive days, then figure a way around that rather than just excluding park models. It doesn't make any sense. There's other ways to deal with this. And there's lease sites I have at Incomeep that there's park models there on that they built decks and so forth. And those people don't own those properties in the same way that my husband and I purchased this property. So it's extremely, it has extremely significant financial implications. And again, a lot of the people that have park models at Oasis rent them out in the summer as well when they're not using them. So they're bringing in tourists. So it just doesn't make any sense, and it's not going to meet your needs, whatever. It's like there's so many mixed bags messages of what you're trying to achieve, but this isn't the way to do it. And
thank you very much, Mrs. Gordon. Your 5 minutes are up. So we do appreciate your point of view. Thank you very much. Okay, Miss, could we have another person speak? Thank you.
Next I have is meetings to have.
Is there someone who has just been unmuted?
Yes, they have.
Okay, go ahead, please.
This is my name. Can you hear me? Sorry.
Yes, go ahead, please. Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. My name is Gary Wilhausen. I am proud owner of 2 sites at the Oasis RV Resort at 2615 Lakeshore Drive. Our family began coming to the Oasis campground close to 40 years ago for a 2-week stay in our motorhome. We loved it so much we began a favorite yearly destination. We soon had family and friends joining us. The Oasis was a great place to come to such a good beach area, alongside with warm waters of the lake, Osoyoos Lake, a pool, play areas for the children. The town has also provided close by access for grocery shopping, golfing, restaurants, wineries, many events and family entertainment, and of course the famous home hardware store, which is a destination all in itself. When the original owner of the Oasis campground, Glenn Miller, developed the property into individual sites, we were very excited to buy, as we were able to enjoy this area more frequently. We signed the legal papers, clearly laid out that the type of recreational models that were permitted, along with the directions of any additions, had to comply to all township and resort bylaws. We were also aware our site would be accessible to assessed by BC assessment according to what type of unit and improvements we could do to our site. The whole development was alongside and with the approval of the town of Osoyoos. As the years has gone on and our family has expanded, we invested in the second site, and we have placed a CSA Z241 park model, which was explicitly noted as approved park models by the town of Osoyoos for our development on each site. Having these types of units enables us to have use of our sites for all seasons, and as they are more suitable for cold weather and we are now able to enjoy Osoyoos around the surrounding communities in the off season as well. Not only have we invested in the Oasis, but we've invested in supporting the community in multiple ways. We have also substantially higher taxes on each site because of the approved park models, and compared to having bare sites. I am the current president of the board of the Oasis and have also been involved in the past boards for many years. I know from experience how hard the past and present Oasis boards have worked to adhering to all the bylaws set down by both the Township of Osoyoos and BC Building Codes and Regulations. In addition, we are in the Oasis have always tried to work hard to cooperate with the town of Osoyoos. People have bought and invested in our property based on the approvals that were in place. To change that would amount to large financial losses for many co-owners, as the value of our entire property would substantially go down in value. How can you change past development agreements? What is decided for the future cannot change what was signed and approved prior to any new proposed bylaws. My thoughts are always best to move forward, not backwards. If council feels they would like to see changes to campgrounds, look at future proposals rather than dismantling well-run established resorts such as ourselves that we have previously approved by the town of Osoyoos. We respectfully request that you consider the development details that you were approved by the town of Osoyoos at the intersection of the Oasis RV Resort in your consideration of this matter, and hence deny this amendment proposal. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Wilhausen. Okay, go ahead, the next person.
Next, I have Wendy.
Is there
Just wait, I haven't unmuted her yet.
Wendy? Is somebody there named Wendy?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Good evening. My name is Wendy Boris. I will be sharing feedback on behalf of Blair Boris, myself, and Brianna Boris. We are 3 co-owners at the Oasis RV Resort, which is at 2615 Lakeshore Drive. We as well have been enjoying our vacations at the Oasis for more than 35 consecutive years. We basically work all year for our weeks of sunshine at, quote, our little piece of heaven at the Oasis. We started with about 10 years of tenting and then upgraded to a tent trailer, a hardtop, and various fifth wheels. Some 20 years ago, Glenn Miller, the then owner, made application to the town of Osoyoos to transition from a campground type facility to the current RV resort. When the town of Osoyoos approved his application, specifically including CSA Z241 approved park models, we made a life choice. This was not a trivial thing. It was a major decision that we considered long and hard. And based on our love for Osoyoos and our love for the Oasis, we decided that our vacation property, as in temporary, recreational, and seasonal, would be a park model in the Oasis RV Resort. The intent of sharing this history with you is to illustrate that the type of accommodation is a point in our life journey. It is not what determines how many days in a year the owner will sleep there, or whether the owner decides to rent their place out to Osoyoos tourists. Moving from a tent to a tent trailer may mean no longer having to roll your pregnant body out onto the ground in the middle of the night to use the outside washroom. Similarly, moving from a fifth wheel to a park model may mean you don't have to worry about your black water tank overflowing or not having enough loonies for the laundry. The accommodation does not determine how many days you intend to sleep there. We made the commitment to become co-owners at the Oasis some 20 years ago based on what was applied for, what the town of Osoyoos approved, and what our life goals were regarding future vacations. Simply put, the town of Osoyoos approved CSA Z241 park models within the Oasis RV Resort. The town of Osoyoos also approved the first 2 park models, which were on Site 46, that was the one owned by Glenn Miller, and Site 1, as examples of how the Oasis RV Resort would develop henceforth. Simply put again, any consideration redefining the rules on which the Oasis RV Resort was based on to now exclude such park models should be denied. As an analogy, Imagine you currently reside in a duplex in a nice multifamily residential development where duplexes and fourplexes were approved at its inception. 20 years later, there is a bylaw amendment being proposed that duplexes are no longer allowed in this nice multifamily residential community. That multifamily is being redefined not to include duplexes. Would you think that was acceptable? Or what about your neighbor who made the life choice to buy into a development because he wants to build a duplex that he and his family can share with his widowed mother? But now there is an amendment being proposed that duplexes are no longer allowed. Would you think that was acceptable? I've only included this main focus of our feedback in this presentation, but we've also submitted a letter including additional feedback regarding community, organization, sustainability, and budget as minuted in the April 13th council minutes. We do anything and everything we can to respect, contribute, and protect the community there, the economy, safety, and the spirit of Osoyoos. We hold the Osoyoos community close to our hearts and likewise feel that the Oasis RV Resort is an important part of the Osoyoos community. We do not have the background behind other Osoyoos C5 zone developments, but we do know about the Osoyoos RV Resort, and we implore you to respect the original development details that were approved by the town of Osoyoos at the inception of the Oasis RV Resort, and to ultimately...
Thank you very much, Mrs. Boris. I'm sorry, but your time is up. We do appreciate all your comments and everybody's comments. We are taking notes.
Thank
we
you.
are keeping track of these, and so thank you very much. And we do have your letter. Okay, thank you. Mrs. Hilson.
Next is Nigel Harvey. Now just unmute.
Go ahead, please, Mr. Harvey.
Let me see, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Excellent, thank you so much. My name is Nigel Harvey. I am also an owner in the Oasis Park at 2615 Lakeshore Drive. I don't really want to echo the sentiments of just about everybody else that's spoken from the Oasis.
I agree.
Because I totally agree with just about everything they say. I want to focus on one thing is I bought in my park model in 2019. I submitted an application for a permit and actually got one with absolutely no problem at all, which kind of highlights that what it seems to be an inconsistency in advice from the development department. I supplied my building permit, and it clearly says on my building permit, and I quote, my permit number 2018090, description of proposed work or use. Modular home built to CSA standards, built by Modulux in Kelowna and transported to site 83 at the Oasis RV Park on Lakeshore Drive. I don't know if it could be any clearer that I didn't in any way disguise my application. I sent in, and I have it in my hand, a clear permit drawing, engineered drawing with setbacks, which were in excess of what the town had laid out. Distance from my neighbors, distance from my lot line. Your concern about parking, I actually showed that I have 3 parking spaces on my lot. I'm blessed with that. So I don't really want to, as I said, echo the sentiments of everybody else, but I do want to echo that the value of Oasis as owners, their value to the town. We all do contribute quite a lot financially. And as a private park, whether or not our park models are allowed to stay or they go, it has no effect on the town because we don't open our park up to transient campers. What what I should say, I've actually contributed 10 years of my life to the board of this park, and I'm very passionate about it. What I am really concerned about is not the 70 people that have park models on here, because clearly it would be a catastrophe to try and get us to remove 70 park models. And I don't know how you would have the ability to do that. But what I'm concerned about is the 30 people that still have plans to put park models on this thing. What happens to the value of their lot now that if this amendment was to pass and they have no ability to put a park model on their unit? I know of 3 that have put their park models on hold. It's just not fair. And I think as a park, my focus is to fight for the 30 people that want to have that decision available to them. That's basically my view. My view is that you do not go ahead with this amendment, and perhaps look at maybe an appendix to the C5 zoning. That doesn't mean that we're being persecuted by the faults of other parks in this town. We're good stewards of this town. We're good stewards of the lakefront. We do all that we can. We have 2 construction guys on our board that do not let anything happen in this park that isn't to code and to town bylaws. I thank you for your time, and I sure hope you guys do the right thing. Thank you again.
Thank you, Mr. Harvey. We appreciate your comments.
Good job.
Mrs. Hilson?
Next I have Michelle and Herb Johnson.
Mr. and Mrs. Johnson?
Good evening, Mayor and councilors. This is actually Tyrell Johnstone, and I'm speaking on behalf of my family that are original owners at the Oasis on 2615 Lakeshore Drive. I want to first say that we agree and second many of the views and points of the speakers before us, especially those made by the Gordons and just made by Nigel. Myself and my family are completely against changing the bylaws, or if it would to be changed, to explicitly include rather than exclude park models. Along with the Gordons, and as one of the families that Nigel just referred to, we've been put in a very difficult position with this proposed bylaw or amendment to the bylaw, as we are currently in the design phase of our park model with Moduline in Penticton, and have had to put our plans on hold due to this proposed bylaw amendment. We've been saving and dreaming of putting a park model since the beginning and are finally able to do so. However, our dreams have been put on hold. So I'd like to raise a question for you. What are owners like us supposed to do that have always had the intention and belief that we could get a park model and are finally able to do so, but are now being told we can't, or the possibility that we cannot? Foremost, we do not want the bylaw to be changed, again, as I reiterated, or if it is to be changed, to include the use of park models. But the answer is not simply just to grandfather currently placed park models, but also original purchasers and current owners should be allowed the same privileges as those who already have park models on their property. Just because we were not able to afford one in the past should not dictate that we cannot have one in the future. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Johnstone. Mrs. Hilson?
Next I have Kay.
Kay,
Yeah, Kay. K-A-Y.
Hello.
go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Kay Bowl, and I'm a co-owner in the Oasis RV Resort at 2615 Lakeshore. I have 2 sites, one that has a park model that was placed in 2009 and another site that has a travel trailer on it. Since this proposal came forward, The question that came to my mind originally was, what is mayor and council's vision of Lakeshore Drive 5, 10, or 20 years down the road? Is it a snapshot limited to the 10 busy weeks of summer, or is it a year-round, four-season panorama? What does a barren, empty campground contribute to the city during the quiet, cold months between October and March? Is there really a large demand for campsites during the other 42 weeks of off-season? Travel trailers do not provide the warmth and comfort of a CSA Z241 park model. Even the most expensive travel trailers lack the insulation, plumbing, and space required to vacation comfortably during fall, winter, and spring. Park models, on the other hand, can provide a lower cost solution for year-round vacation spaces that are not currently serviced by local hotels, motels, or condominium developments. The proposed bylaw amendment states a need to provide accommodation for the traveling public. CSA Z241 park models are a perfect year-round solution to fill a niche that complements the other amenities and attractions available in our community. This proposed exclusion to eliminate park models will result in existing units left on site as legal, non-conforming vacation homes that cannot be replaced. Accordingly, these properties age, they will most likely become less attractive, depreciate in value and appearance, and potentially be less likely to attract significant reinvestments. Eventually, these lower standards and increased restrictions will create a diminished level of material comfort and, as a result, contribute less to the beauty of this area. Nobody wants our resorts to become rundown trailer parks. Over the past 17 years, the number of park models in the Oasis RV Resort has increased from a single show home on unit site 1 to over 70 units out of an available 104 spaces. Currently, these upscale RV vacation homes cost in the neighborhood of $200,000 to purchase. After the initial delivery, many local trades, vendors, and merchants are called upon to service, repair, and maintain these sites within our park. None of these local businesses would benefit from visitors that tow their travel trailers in and out of our city as the traveling public. Service vehicles from Baylog Electric, Joe's Plumbing, Creative Crete, Rocks and Blocks, amongst many others, can regularly be seen in our park. Lighting, decorations, wall hanging supplies are purchased at Home Hardware, and at last count, more than 10 of our co-owners purchased full-time memberships at the Oasis Golf Club. Has anyone considered asking these local business owners and taxpayers if they appreciate the investments made by our co-owners that have CSA Z241 park models as their choice of vacation home? According to the incorporation document submitted in 2004 by the Oasis RV Resort to the city of Vesuvius, each site owner is responsible for the cost and installation of the respective choice of overnight accommodations compliant to the C5 zoning, more particularly either an RV travel trailer as defined as a recreational vehicle CSA Z240 or a park model recreational vehicle CSA 241. Furthermore, the park models are presently being assessed as an improvement under the BC Assessment Act. The units are valued by BC Assessment, and the value is allocated to the site upon which it is located. RV travel trailers do not attract an assessed value, and therefore taxes are based on bare land only. Why would mayor and council approve replacing the definition for recreational vehicle to exclude park models in accordance with the CSA Z241 standards, when the primary financial impact would be to eliminate the only type of approved overnight accommodations that BC Assessment considers an improvement? This proposal will definitely decrease the amount of taxes collected by the city. The report presented to Mayor and Council on April 13, 2021 specifically stated the proposed update to the zoning bylaw has no implications for the budget. This is blatantly false, as the 70 plus existing units create at least $70,000 in additional taxes, annual tax revenues to the city from our park alone. Is it in the best interest of the community to cut off this existing revenue source? Is it even legal or ethical to collect taxes off units that mayor and council have deemed non-compliant? Good question. What are the true underlying reasons to rush this redefinition of a globally accepted standard through before the OCP is finalized and presented to the community for approval? How does a local definition of recreational vehicle that contradicts every other community in the nation contribute to consistent, clear, and effective regulations that the proposed amendment states are the cornerstone of transparent governance and overall community health? The report stated.
Thank you very much, Dave. Your time is up. We appreciate your comments. Thank you very much.
Well, I appreciate you listening to me, and I respectfully submitted.
Okay, Mrs. Hilson, we got someone else?
Yes, next we have Karen Somerset.
Go ahead, please, Ms. Somerset.
Good evening, everyone that's sitting tonight as council. I'm just doing this as a follow-up to my detailed letter for both of our lots. We currently are owners of two sites, 91 and 92 at Island View Resort at 5005 Lakeshore Drive. We'd like to indicate that those are privately deeded and owned property. And we do know that a covenant exists at Island View RV Resort for, at this time, 41 sites as called unrestricted use. However, as a past and present council member, I'd also like to draw attention to the present council that we did have to seek legal advice when the town asked us to look into having rentals or overseeing rentals in our park. And I'd like you to make note that presently there is case precedence that does not allow for forced rentals on private property, and that we've been down this road before. However, our owners know that they can rent every other day to people with the names ending in XYZ, charging $2,000 a day, and that would exempt any incoming travelers. We are currently having both rentals of park models, empty lots, and on-site trailers or RVs as by your definition. And so we are accommodating tourists. I know that in our two lots, one is called a residential lot by taxation, and that is our park model, and our other is called recreational. That recreational lot, we have had travelers as far as Scotland come to visit our site. They have spent countless dollars, including our residential site, when these so-called travelers have come in. You are asking for people to be deemed only travelers by pulling a recreational vehicle, but you are forfeiting looking at those people who travel by vehicle who cannot access your current motel hotel reservations that are booked years in advance.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Somerset, I think we have lost you. You are not we cannot hear you anymore. Are you still there?
As campgrounds are seen as not a bed per bed pay in thing, because one day a trailer can't be there, the next day it's gone. So the town does not recoup any type of income from those campers coming in. And I also want to note that there is other case precedents that exist in the Lower Mainland currently for those people who are asking for their RVs to put in sight. I detailed that in my letter that I sent to the town. There are multiple cases that have been seen by the Court of Queen's Bench that agree that recreational vehicles are an individual's home. And at this point, the town is excluding that from their vision and what they're saying. I'd also like to add that as a past and current council member at Island View RV Resort, I know that we have worked hard in coordinating with the town in meeting all the building expectations and fire codes for anything that got approved within our resort. All of our plans are in place. The site plan was approved. We met the standards that the town asked, and all of that is on file with Kamloops. And I would think that the town needs to step back from setting expectations on fire risk at this time, because I don't believe that they have the ability to assess that based on what they're putting forward with this situation. That's all I'd like to add tonight. Thank you for my time.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Somerset. We did lose you for about 10 or 15 seconds in the middle, but you carried on. So thank you for your comments. Mrs. Hilson.
Next will be Jerry.
Go ahead, please, Jerry.
You can hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
My name is Jerry Jens. Speaking on behalf of my wife, Charlotte, myself, we are also owners at Oasis 2615 Lakeshore. We also are opposed to the amendment to this bylaw and will ditto everything that others have said, and Drew has spoken very clearly to how Oasis was approved. I want to speak more a little bit just to clarify from the previous meeting that the board town council had in respect to units. At Oasis, we're very strict on the units that come in there. They apply via development permit, which I get because I'm on that committee. We suggest, or we don't suggest, we tell them that they required to apply at the town of Oasis for a building permit. And other than a few like Nigel, they've all been told that they don't require a building permit. We do make sure that the units are built at an approved factory that can have CSA Z241 certification, and that certification is on the units when they were brought on site. Some have a sunroom, which they apply for, or add a room as they're called. Those also must be on wheels and must be CSA approved before they're brought in. We're very stringent on our siting to make sure that the units are sited properly. And there is, in 98% of all units in the park, there's none that are side by side. A unit is on one side of the lot, and then a open space for concrete deck or deck, and then the next unit. So there's always spacing between, more spacing than what is approved in a lot of subdivisions these days with narrow lot subdivisions. I'm very familiar with that and how that works. Any awnings that are put up and not approved again by the town of Oasis, because we've been told that we don't require a permit, because I have it in writing from the building inspector when I wanted to put an awning up at my property, that I do not require a permit to put up an awning, but we require them all to be non-combustible construction. In other words, aluminum framed as opposed to wood construction. So I just wanted to clarify that things are not stick built at the Oasis, as we've been led to believe, or you've been led to believe. They're built quality and do meet CSA standards. And the last comment is that I wish you think through this amendment. And as others have said, there's other ways to get to the solutions that you want. Thank you for your time. Any questions?
Thank you very much. Appreciate your comments. Jerry, and I'm sorry I didn't catch your last name.
Ends.
Ends. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Hilson.
Next, we Steph Partridge.
Steph Cartridge.
No, Steph.
Steph Partridge.
Hi there, Steph Partridge. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Thank you. Go ahead.
Hi there. Thanks very much, Steph Partridge. I'm a relatively new owner at Oasis, 2615 Lakeshore Drive, October 2020, actually. First off, I just need to make the comment, just an amazing and respectful group of owners at Oasis that I'm hearing in the speakers list today, and just really welcome their sound contributions to this discussion. And I do thank council for hearing me as well. I don't want to belabor the points that have already been made by others. I think they've done a great job in kind of summarizing positions, and I would wholeheartedly echo those comments. The one piece I kind of want to add, just from my observation of these comments so far, if I listen to the summary report that was presented from the first and second reading, again repeated today, a couple comments there. It was reference to safety and then reference through kind of the recreational use of the property in terms of contributions to the community financially. It's pretty obvious just in the contributions to this meeting so far, the financial contributions that the owners at Oasis, and I suspect some of the other resort properties in Osoyoos provide. Since I've owned in October 2020, it's pretty clear I'm making best friends with all folks at Home Hardware and elsewhere in terms of my contributions to the community when I'm visiting there from my primary residence in the Lower Mainland. So if the intent is around contributions to the community and addressing the bylaw to do that, it seems to me that we're going to have a significant negative impact by what's being proposed. I do, from a kind of a litigation point of view, think just that it's really sad to hear the prospect for a couple of owners who have maybe lost sales of property, but I'd love to hear what that number is, kind of combined of the impact, financial impact of property value for those that have made these investments, retirement or otherwise, recreational or otherwise, by the impact of this bylaw proposal and what that summary cost would be. That's, to me, quite striking of what the impact could be, and I would like to see that formed as part of the conversation. The last piece, and again, for the minutes, and this is the reason I wanted to speak beyond just the letter I submitted to council as well. One of the key comments I heard in that summary report that was provided again tonight was this language of the original intent of the bylaws. When you hear, to me, the words original intent of the bylaws, that's a very subjective comment versus what's objective is what council and planning department and permits have approved or in writing or otherwise said are not required. Those are the objective evidence of what's come from council. In the case of myself and my wife, Elizabeth Partridge, owning a park model site that we've purchased, the original owner, who was a lovely 89 and 90-year-old couple that sold to us last year, being original from, I think, 2003 at Oasis, did not require a permit when they put that park model there, did require a permit when they put a sunroom there, did seek it, did get it. To me, and lots of evidence as recent as 2019 and some of the summaries today, council and by way of council through planning department have approved or denied because you don't need it permits. That is the evidence of what the intent of a bylaw is, not a subjective comment saying the original intent, and that's the implication for the change here. If the other concern as brought forward by this proposed bylaw change is around the safety of the site, I do find it again concerning with some of the comments here of, has the fire department been engaged with these councils, with the owners? Have they got a site plan? And from all evidence of the reports you're hearing here, at least at Oasis, I can't speak for others, very clearly trying to adhere to expectations that create a safe place for emergency vehicles to attend the site. So based on the proposals that have come forward in terms of what the intent of this bylaw change is, it seems to have a lot of striking negative impacts to what the out loud goals have been put forward by council in this proposal. So I echo others that have said to abandon it, and I do welcome and thank the comments of the other owners, particularly of Oasis, that have contributed here. I do thank you for your time, council. Back to the group.
Thank you very much, Mr. Partridge. Okay, Mrs. Hilson.
Next would be John Harford.
John
Harford.
Harford.
Hello,
Go ahead, please, Mr. Harford.
thank you. You can hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I have a few things that haven't been mentioned. Plus, I'd like to also agree with everything that's been said so far. First and foremost, I found out about this whole process accidentally because I just happened to go down early this year, and one of the residents mentioned it. Otherwise, we would not have known this, and this would have just slipped right through. We've got COVID, we've got off-season people from all across Western Canada, Vancouver, that would never have known about this to be able to address it. Anyway, enough of that. I think it's been kind of snuck through or tried to be snuck through. Couple of things that haven't been mentioned as far as us being good stewards and residents of Osoyoos.
when we've been coming here since 1980. And one of the considerations we had when we bought was our children were becoming teenagers and they would want summer work. And we didn't want to not be able to camp. Sorry about the dog, they'll be quiet. If our kids couldn't work. So we checked around and we found the grocery stores, the A&W, all of these places said, absolutely, we can't get local kids to work. So both of my kids worked all through their teenage years, and they'd start in the long weekend in July, and they'd work right through the long weekend in September. They actually got more hours there than they would have in my hometown, Kelowna. That's something that has been mentioned. Anyway, we have, according to our agreement, the stuff we've signed legally, exclusive use of our property. So it's not up to us to rent out to become a rental for the city. Do you rent your home to people? Do you have to rent your home? And would you want people coming in your home and renting it? And so that is why we bought this, because we have exclusive use. Now, I'm a teacher. I'm there all summer. Don't go down much in the winter or the off season, but we start at spring break and then we'll go down on weekends. And that is my place. It's my second home. I have everything set up there. So I just need to pack shirts, shorts, toothbrush, and I'm there. And I don't want anybody in my place. I would never have bought if that was if I'd known it 21 years down the road, the city was going to say, hey, you know what, let's change the bylaw and I'm going to have you guys rent your places out now. Anyway, moving on. I have a golf membership in Vesuvius. I'm a resident of Vesuvius. When we put our park model in, I applied for a building permit. I repeatedly went down because my wife was on the board and my wife is a stickler for rules. So I went down 2 or 3 times, talked to different people, and they said, no, it's an RV. You do not need a park model or a permit. And I had told them exactly what it was. When it came in and it was placed, I took a picture and I went down and they said, we don't want anything to do with it. It's an RV. We don't issue permits for RVs. It's plugged in. It has a hose hooked up to a spigot. And the sewer is just like when you drive your trailer in and you connect your sewer. It's the same thing. It's not, the stuff that I read in the paper, I feel like I should be guilty. I hide my head when I go into town because we're a bunch of hillbillies that have broken all the rules. And we haven't. We followed the rules exactly as they were laid out. I want to take you back 25 years. Remember, there used to be about 50 or 100 kids roaming Lakeshore Road until 2 or 3 in the morning, and the police were just constantly active, back and forth, back and forth. That's completely gone because now it's more family oriented, and you can walk out at 10 o'clock and there's hardly anybody on the streets except families going for walks. I would say that that's much better than it used to be. The fact that I applied for a building permit and didn't get it, but then when I built a 15 by 35 awning off of my park model, I went down and absolutely I had to get a permit. I paid my money and I have a permit for that. And it's to be attached to a park model. So how the city can come by 21 years later and go, gee, we didn't know there was park models in there. It just seems that over the years.
Thank you, Mr. Hartford. Your 5 minutes are up. We appreciate your comments.
Mr. Hartford needs to state his address, please.
Sorry, it's 2615 Oasis. Did you get that?
Lakeshore Drive.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mrs. Hilson.
Okay, next, who didn't speak yet is Kelly.
Kelly, go ahead, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead, please.
Thank you very much for hearing us tonight. We appreciate and agree with all of the points made so far. I'll try not to reiterate too much of what was already said. We are owners of 2 sites at Island View, 5005 Lakeshore Drive. Both of our sites are unrestricted sites, which means for our purposes here at Island View that we are technically exempt from having to rent our units. In 2017, we obtained a permit from the town for one of our sites, and we subsequently put in a park model. 2021, we confirmed via email with the town when we requested a permit that we do not need to have a permit from town to put in a park model on our second site, which we were only doing so that we could rent it throughout the year, not just our fifth wheel, but we could rent, seasonally 12 months of the year. Based on that, we obtained permission from our strata to go ahead and put in a park model. Then all of this happened. We have put that on hold. That is thousands and thousands of dollars we have spent on our current one and would have spent on this next one, which is now on hold. Our question is, what is the impact on our property value if this amendment were to go forward? How does it impact if we're considered to be a legally non-conforming use of that land? How do we go about and sell that down the road if we choose to? How does it impact our insurance? For, I'm not quite sure what the actual purpose of this amendment is. If it's to say that you want to have sites available for other people to come and rent, it makes no sense to me, because you can rent a park model just as easily as you can rent an RV. As a matter of fact, we have snowbirds in here that are here 6 and 7 months of the year. So why is it okay for them to do that, but I can't do that seasonally? I'm like many of these other people here. I am now retired, but before I was retired, worked the school year, same thing. Summers off, springs off, all that kind of stuff. My kids, all of our kids had their first jobs here. They worked here for years. So I don't understand why our money isn't as good as the money of people that are the traveling public. That's basically what I fail to see the difference of why is that okay. Going forward, another point I really want to address, again, I did so in my letter, is the homeowners grant. We meet all the requirements. There's no requirement from the BC homeowners grant for us to live here year round. We can live here as our home base, which this is our home base. We sold our home when we retired, and we are allowed to be here for 6 months of the year, and we can still claim the homeowners grant. It is a provincial homeowners grant. It is not a town of Osoyoos grant. We meet all the requirements. We've confirmed that with BC Assessment. We confirmed it every year for the last 3 years, and we continue to apply for and get the homeowners grant. So that one's got to be taken off the table, because I think that that's just kind of a red herring. And as long as you're playing by the rules, you are entitled to it. Anyhow, those are just a couple of the points that I really wanted to make. And we do appreciate the chance to speak and have our needs addressed, right? That's it.
Thank you. Okay, someone else, Mrs. Hilson.
Yes, next would be Jerry Preston.
Jerry Preston, please go ahead. Mr. Preston, are you there?
He needs to unmute himself.
Could you unmute yourself, please, Mr. Preston?
Can't hear us.
He could hear us. Yeah. We can't hear him.
Mr. Preston, you are on mute. Could you unmute yourself, please, if you wish to speak?
Can you unmute?
No.
I don't know what else we can do then.
So
Could we go on to someone
Yeah, we'll
else?
go on to somebody else, and then we'll,
Sure.
if Mr. Preston.
If he can unmute himself, we'll come back to him.
Yeah. So the next 3 people have already spoken. So if they have any new information that they wish to provide to council, they can give
Okay.
an opportunity. So next, I'll go next with John Gordon.
John,
Oh, wait, no. Next would be Kay.
Kay, are you unmuted now? Kay, if you would like to speak again, it must be something that has not already been brought up when you last spoke.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, just wanted to finish a few quick points. I timed it out originally, but apparently I spoke a little slowly this time.
Okay.
I was just going to say that in the report presented to council on April the 13th, it stated that in its last implication that the long-term sustainability of our community and the surrounding area is achieved through good planning practice that are proactive rather than reactive. I just like to say that good planning looks forward. It doesn't attempt to rewrite history. Sustainability is found in cooperation and staying in step with standards enacted by senior levels of governance, not by attempting to undermine or deviate from nationally accepted definitions and standards. Being proactive requires our leaders to be in tune with the needs and wishes of our community and avoid the temptation to act on misinformation and band-aid solutions that don't clearly and honestly identify the real needs of our community. I think from everything we've heard this evening from all the other contributors that this is a major impact, or this proposal could have major impacts on our community. And we would just like you to take some clear, sober thought and rethink what the true focus of your proposal is and how it will impact your community. And I thank you for your time or listening to me and giving me your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Can you just, state their last name again and address?
Okay, would you?
Yeah, sorry. Yes, I'm at 2615 Lakeshore Drive. And the last name is Bohlen, B-O-H-L-E-N.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Did we get Mr. Preston to unmute?
I'm going to ask him now. Yes, Mr. Preston.
Mr. Preston, are you online? Would you like to speak?
Okay, there I'm unmuted now.
Thank you very much. Go ahead.
Okay, thanks for your patience, Mayor and Council. I'm calling in behalf of my wife and I, who are owners at the Oasis RV Resort. We purchased our property there in 2003, and since then, the property hasn't been available for tourists to rent because we bought it and placed a trailer, travel trailer on it for the first 13 years. And then in 2013, we got a permit and placed a park model on the property with the setbacks that were requested. So for the planning department, say to council that park models are the cause of tourists not being able to rent is false, because the tourists haven't been able to rent sites since the park was redeveloped and everybody owned the site and placed permanent units or semi-permanent. 95% of the sites have always been occupied by the owner's trailer or park model or fifth wheel. So the idea of canceling or amending the bylaw saying you can't have a park model and that's going to help rentals for Oasis is totally false. That opportunity has been gone since the park was redeveloped, as the same with other than the Island View, where you put caveats in some of the lots that they had to be available for rentals. We use the property about 10 or 12 weeks per year. I've been out to ski at Baldy on a couple of occasions, and we use it in the spring and the summer.
Our son has worked there.
Our son comes out every year bringing friends and whatnot, and extra people to enjoy the Oasis area. So the park models, as the other speakers have mentioned, were approved for use when the park transitioned, and for the planning department to say that that wasn't the intent is totally false, because the council knew what the park would look like when it was transitioning. So I spoke with the planning department today, and they stated that they want this amendment just as a temporary thing until they get the new OCP completed. But I think that if this amendment is approved, then it will carry on through to the OCP, and it would be denied in the future as well. So I encourage the council to deny this planning change. And if they want future parks to look different, then they should plan for that in the new OCP, but leave the existing parks as they are with the allowance for park models that are there, as well as future park models moving in to the existing parks. Thank you for your time. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to stop for a minute here and explain that that some people are taking their what they think is being talked about from the paper and from other people. And I just want you to know that we are writing everything down. We have kept track of all of the people that have spoken. Sometimes we don't agree with where you get your information, but believe me, we will certainly look at everything. So thank you very much. Okay, Mrs. Hilson, who's next?
Next will be Paul Tanita.
Paul, would you like to speak? Go ahead.
Hi, thank you. Yes, my name is Paul Tanita. I'm the lawyer for the Oasis RV Resort Owners Association. So that's the society that represents all owners in the Oasis RV Resort. And of course, those who are directly impacted by the proposed changes to the definition of a park model, or of a recreational vehicle, I suppose, that impacts park models. As you've already heard, about 70 of the 105 owners at Oasis have park models now. And others, as you've heard, specifically bought their lot intending to put a park model on it. A few of them were down that path before these proposed changes came out. If these changes go through, there's, I think, little doubt that the property values will decrease, and that impacts savings and investments from many of these people who are seniors. We even heard from one owner who cannot even sell right now due to this inconsistency that's shown up regarding some park models that have had permits, and just basically people then getting sort of cold feet because of this permit issue. At the end of the day, this really results in some unfair treatment to certain individuals who have park models, others who may want to put them on. It comes across a bit as targeting certain owners who also contribute to the community and the economy of Soyuz. And it appears as though it's a bit of a target on them simply because of the type of unit that they chose to put on their lot. As you all well know, owners need certainty, communities need certainty, and this leads to significant uncertainty. It's very unclear to many of the owners and to myself as to what is the evil that is trying to be remedied here. If there's concerns about fire or safety, access, those may well be very legitimate concerns, but I would urge council to deal with those issues directly rather than come at it through the attack, so to speak, on park models, which seems to be sort of a backdoor way of solving the problem. If the concern is around, if the concern is around taxes, then that too can be addressed directly and enforced. I do suspect that the Oasis RV Resort Owners Association is not going to sit by and let these unfair changes just go through. And if council approves them, I do anticipate that I will receive instructions to challenge this in whatever manner we may, whether that be through the courts or otherwise. So at the end of the day, I would encourage you to consider all the submissions, that both tonight and the written submissions that have went in by all of the owners and individuals. And I have written submissions as well dated April 22nd. So I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Tamika. We appreciate your point of view. And we will look at everything. We have all the submissions. We have written notes, so we do look at everything. That's our job. So thank you. Is there someone else that wishes to speak, Mrs. Hilson?
Yes. So the next four speakers have spoken already, so if they have some new information to provide to council. So the first one up would be Mike Rossengren.
Mr. Rosenberg, would you like to speak and do you have some new information that you would like to put forward?
Yes, my name is Mike Rosengren. My wife spoke earlier. She kind of stole my thunder. 2615 Lakeshore Drive. First of all, thank you very much for your time tonight and appreciate your time on council. I'm on a similar board and I know it's not easy being up there listening to this. I submitted a letter and a lot of the points have been spoken about, so I'm just going to kind of skip and jump around. So here goes. For years, the town of Oasis has approved permits for the placement of park models within our resort, along with improvements such as decks, sheds, gazebos, and patios. All these constructions and improvements have made the park more beautiful, resort-like, and created a park which shows the caring, passionate, and respectful owners that we are. We each have created a park where everyone takes pride in their lots and their recreational vehicles of choice. Other parks have park models placed on their property, some for a very long time, which suggests the permit department has not been following their own bylaws. What about these owners who have bought properties with park models already situated, maybe the third or fourth owners? I'm sure the subsequent owners did not receive the original permits from the owners. What are council's plans for these situations? Lakeshore Drive is a very beautiful, pristine drive with the new development taking place now at the very south end. We look forward to the redevelopment of what was the water slides and hopefully one day the redevelopment of the old golf course on Lakeshore Drive. As you drive past Island View, Walton's, and then Oasis, you see immaculate, well-kept RV sites and park models along with nicer, newer RVs. In my opinion, if park models were no longer allowed and required to be moved out, the look of Lakeshore Drive would look more like a row of trailer parks than resorts. And as you see that as you venture further south on Lakeshore Drive, the permanent RVs located there are older, some run down, and have a lot of personal belongings strewn about. It is a very stark difference from Oasis, Walton's, and Island View. The optics further south don't look as appealing. I don't think Lakeshore Drive would attract investors to Oasis if these parks no longer allowed park models. Owners would place RVs there and probably would not visit as often as they do with park models, and as a result, may not be kept up as much. Oasis needs to be promoting the year-round livability it has to offer. The decision to revise the bylaw would have a negative effect on the economy, decrease the beauty of Lakeshore Drive, turning it into a trailer park drive, not being visually appealing to visitors or investors. As you are aware, the potential decision to change the bylaws will be very unpopular and will affect dozens and dozens of owners of these properties. Many have put a lot of time, energy, and money into beautifying their sites at their respective resorts. It would be a tragedy to rip these recreational park model homes out and replace with travel trailers, tent trailers. Again, the look of Lakeshore Drive would be more of a trailer park than a resort, creating new problems down the road. So my suggestion, so rather than change this outdated bylaw back to its original intent, if that was the case, why doesn't this council and mayor look to the future and adapt the bylaw to allow these RVs and possible future tiny homes? RVs are getting bigger and bigger all the time. Some are up to 45 feet now. A destination trailer is now the new term for an 8-foot wide park model, and that term is not reflected in this bylaw change. It is time to bring to the current times and language. Let's turn this negative situation into something positive and allow multi-use RVs and park models. It will attract more recreational users to the area more often and consequently bring in more money into the economy of Oasis. It would increase the overall property value of each resort. The benefits, in my opinion, would be in the town's favor. It certainly does not represent Canada's warmest welcome. Frankly, it's just the opposite. The issue of taxes and road access can be easily addressed through enforcement and on-site visits to ensure adequate access. A simple address search will determine residents in a C5 zone, and if so, would not be accepted for discount on taxes.
Thank you, Mr. Rosengren. Your 5 minutes is up. We appreciate your point of view. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, Mrs. Hilson.
Next would be Les C.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
Les, L-E-S.
L-E-S?
Yes.
Oh, that last name is C?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. Les, with the last name starting with C, would you like to speak?
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Go ahead, please. Your full name and address?
It's Les Coughlin. We own 2 lots, lot 3 and 4 in Island View RV Resort, 5005 Lakeshore Drive. So I'll be short and sweet, and thank council for allowing us to speak tonight. It's important. The whole community is built on everybody communicating and coming up with resolutions or with solutions. So my wife and I, Carol, have owned 2 lots, or one lot from day one at Island View when it was developed, and the second lot was purchased about 4 years later. We placed a park model on one of our lots 1 year after the resort was finished. I think that was 2006, but I might be wrong on the date. And at the time, we did not need a permit to put a park model on our lot. We had approached them. They said, no, as long as the axle was left on the unit, it was considered a trailer and we're all fine. So about 7 years ago, 7 or 8 years ago, we decided to purchase the second lot. And I went to see Neil Pageant at the city. I'm an electrical contractor, have been for 34 years. I'm used to doing things with permits and according to the regulations. So I wanted to move our trailer over to our second lot, which is right beside it. And I went to see the city and I was introduced to Neil. He got tired of seeing me because I was probably in there 10 times and I refused to do what I wanted to do, which was move my trailer onto the second lot, add a room, factory built, and add a deck with a cover. And I wouldn't do that and take a risk unless I had a permit. So after bugging Neil for about 8 or 10 times, I walked out of the office with a permit to move my trailer with the details of that trailer from lot 4 to lot 3 with a drawing, manufacturer's drawing of the Aderum trailer with the details how it would be attached, and with the modular deck that was built in components so that it would be assembled and could be deassembled easily. I had to show my parking spot that was on the site with dimensions, and I did. And like I said, I submitted things like I would for one of my major projects that I build. And I walked out with the permit sign saying it was all good to do. So we did the work and we enjoy it. And we have really enjoyed the town of Oasis for 28 years now since our kids were born and we started going there. I couldn't believe when I got some secondhand information because I wasn't notified and I pay taxes in Oasis, but obviously there's a transfer of information that happens. And I didn't even know this was all going on until a few days ago. I went, are you kidding me? So I went to my drawer and I dug out my permit and I still have everything that I used and all the drawings that were submitted with stamps on every page from the city of Oasis. And they said that that's not legal anymore. That's not going to happen. There's no way. I mean, even if council decided they were going to pursue this, it'll get beat. Like we have records from years and years and years where the city of or township of Oasis has approved, acknowledged, and been part of the developments in all these different resorts. And to change the mind now, oh, we don't like that, we're going to change the way it is. It's not going to happen. It's not going to go ahead. The other thing that happened is when I bought my lot 4, it's right on a corner of one of the connecting roads in the resort. And I purchased or put a deposit for purchase of the lot at a certain dimension. And when I went to pick up my contract to buy the lot and finally complete it, there was about 10 feet of the front yard on the radius that was missing because the city went through and analyzed the fire truck access and said that the radius was not enough to get a fire truck around there because they had to maintain that. So I had the option of not buying my property or accepting the new boundaries, which I love Oasis. I loved the lot we were buying and I accepted it. And I gave up for this. The price didn't even change, but I gave up a big chunk of my property so that the fire truck could have the required, I don't know if it was 18 feet or whatever the requirement was, to satisfy the city or the township of Osoyoos' guidelines as well. So I've been part of the whole process, seen it all happen, had every permit that I could ever have asked for. I have a non-covenant 2 lots that say I can do whatever I want with them. But we've always said that we want to make sure that we follow the guidelines of the Osoyoos because we love it there. So that's all I got to say tonight. I don't know how you could make a wholesale change when all the way along the council or the previous council have known and been part of every decision that's happened in our resort. And I'm sure from the friends and we have family and friends down at the Oasis, they've been in the same type of processes before. So please reconsider, and I'm sure that you'll do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Coughlin. Okay. Mrs. Hilson, do we have anybody else?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Next, I had Jerry Preston. And so Jerry has spoken before, so if they have any new information.
Jerry, do you have any new information? You have already spoken before?
Yeah, no, I don't. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Could you lower your hand then?
I'll lower.
Okay, you will. Okay, is there someone else then?
Next would be, it looks like Kelly lowered their hand. So next would be John. So next would be Corey and Bev Doel.
Okay, Mr. Dole, you have spoken before. Do you have something else that you wish to add? Something new, information?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council, for taking a little bit more information. I just wanted to add quickly, when we purchased our property, there was a basic trailer on it, and then we added our park model home. And when we added our park model home to our property taxes went up as a benefit to the city and to everybody around us. Obviously, with the increased value of our property with a park model home on it, I roughly went up $400 a year. And I quickly went around our park and looked at the number of park models that are in here and the number of us that have gone up probably around $400 a year. The expected life expectancy of a park model home in this resort of, I would guess about 25 years, 20 to 30 years at least. But I did the quick math at 25 years, and that's about $10,000 a piece. And over that lifetime, we're talking $750,000, almost $750,000 of money into the town of Osoyoos in one resort. And there's a number of resorts, obviously, in this town that are affected by this bylaw. So to say that going forward, we can't have park models or park models are not accepted, and increasing my taxes when I was not privileged a permit, I find it a little bit short-sighted that the town's not looking at the long-term effect. And that's just the tax implication that we increased. And I know the city only gets a portion of that, but still a portion is better than nothing, as a town. And, I can add on just quickly, the amount of money that I've spent in this town since I've moved here. We came through here with a motorhome. I actually biked through here about 25 times during Ironman training. And that's how I found Osoyoos. And from Ironman, we always wanted to come back. And when we came back, we came with a motorhome. And when we came with a motorhome, we camped for a week and we wanted to stay longer. We couldn't stay longer. And we wanted to stay longer. So we ended up buying a place here in this town. And then I initially told you earlier that we ended up buying a place in this town. And now that I've bought a place in this town, the prime example is I hired Kevin Honduras to do the concrete work on our park model unit here so we could put it in. That was $400 for him to come in and extend our pad out 8 feet. Today, he just completed the addition of our patio that you approved. Thank you very much. And that patio improvement was $10,000. The patio extension is gone. Unfortunately, things have gone crazy in pricing from almost $40,000 to almost $75,000 just to do a patio on the back of our home. We've hired nothing but local contractors and people that live in this town. So, this is a stepping stone that you were potentially squashing for a lot of people, because as I'd said earlier, I want to sell my park model home and then move into my permanent home. We have 3 people on Lakeshore Drive that we've become very good friends with that all have owned homes on or in Oasis Resort on Lakeshore Drive. So that's just 3 people that we've met on our own street. So we're a stepping stone that you're potentially, going to eliminate in a lot of ways. So I just want to bring that up and thank you for your time. And we really appreciate you guys staying late and listening to all of us. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Mr. Dole. Okay, Mrs. Hilson.
So the next 4 speakers have already spoken, so I will start with John Gordon, if they wish to speak again.
Mr. Gordon, do you wish to speak again? Do you have new information?
Yeah, I think just some added, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
It's Audrey and John Gordon, 2615 Lakeshore Drive, Oasis RV Resort. Just to echo a couple of points that I think they're pertinent. With you, if this bylaw went ahead and with the uncertainty that comes with it, people may be very well, very conservative about how much more should they invest? How much should they invest to maintain their properties and all of the beautiful improvements that have been done in Oasis, not knowing whether the implications of this amendment will definitely impact the resaleability of the properties and so forth. The discriminate nature of it for those that are planning to put park models on, as has already been mentioned. But another point that hasn't been mentioned is what if, sadly, one of the park models that is grandfathered in, as though that is going to sort of appease somehow, what if they do have a fire? What if they do become uninhabitable due to something, lightning strike or fire or whatever the case may be? Then their only choice would be to rebuild. And if you exclude park models, how are you going to deal with that? So then you're going to tell people whose sadly unfortunate situation is that their park model that was sort of grandfathered in is no longer inhabitable, that then they wouldn't be able to replace it with another park model. And that point hasn't been made. I guess just in leaving, I think the far-reaching implications of this really need to be taken into consideration, particularly given that you have heard over and over tonight that it doesn't address the concerns that have been brought forward as a rationale for this bylaw. There's no evidence that it does. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Gordon. Okay.
Next, we have John Hartford again.
Mr. Hartford, do you have any more comments that you were not able to address the first time?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Go ahead, please.
Okay, first of all, I know with it happens, we all know it does. These meetings are held because, for appearances, but the decision has already been made and nothing anybody says or does changes things. I'm hoping that that's not the case tonight. But I am a little.
Mr. Hartford, that is not the case. Please don't assume something.
Okay, I'm just saying, I'm just saying, but I've been watching the body language and this is not negative. This is just an observation. I'm being very respectful, but I've been watching the body language of the people that I'm looking at. And Mr. Rhodes has his eyes closed half the time. Mr. Harvey's been up and down. And I'm sure you're listening, but it body language, to me, it's like, oh God, when are these guys going to shut up so I can go home? That's probably, I'm hoping that's not what you're thinking, but that's what it looks like. So I'm hoping that you're really listening to what's going on today, because this is our lives that have been ripped up. Every single unit in our park.
I'd like you to be polite and respectful. We are all here listening to you. We are all trying, but we do not want to be criticized. Thank you.
I'm not criticizing. I'm just saying that I'm hoping that this meeting, that you're actually listening. I'm really hoping that this comes to some kind of reasonable decision. Every unit in our place is CSA approved, exactly like we were told in the beginning. This weekend, I went down. My wife spent over $500 at one of the local greenhouses getting flowers, pots. I went to Home Hardware and I got all kinds of underground sprinklers to redo stuff. We're spending money there constantly. We choose to buy local. All the furniture, when we brought our place in 2001, all our furniture was bought locally. For appliances, everything. We support Oasis 100%. And when I heard about this, I get quite emotional because I have a lot of money invested in this. This is my retirement. And right now I see 4 people that are controlling all that. And this came right out of the blue. We were having we just absolutely love coming to Oasis. Now the stress that I'm under, the trauma that I'm under, trying to figure out what the future is going to bring is in your hands. And this is why I say I'm looking at body language and I'm going, oh my God, I don't even know if they're listening. I'm hoping you are, and I'm not saying you're not. I'm trying to be respectful, but I'm just telling you what I'm thinking as I'm seeing this. And that's what worries me because of the stress I'm under, of the financial consequences of your decision.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hartford. We appreciate your concern. Okay, who have we got next, Mrs. Hilson?
Next, we would have Mike Rosengren.
Mike was already on and so was his wife.
Yes.
So excuse me to both Mr. and Mrs. Rosengren. I think you've spoken twice now. Do you have something that needs to be said that you haven't already said?
Yes.
Please go ahead.
I would just like, I apologize if I've got your name wrong. Is it Mrs. Hilson? At the very beginning, you read out your report, and what I was reading on the report, I think you elaborated a little bit more. You said, if you correct me if I'm wrong, but there was something you said that existing park models would be allowed to stay. Was that correct? Because that's not.
Miss McKay's report is part of the agenda package. You can read it on there, and that is exactly what she did say. We are not going in to remove park models that are already there. That was on there on her report.
So I just want to clarify, you are not going to remove existing ones?
No, we are not.
Okay.
We are trying to deal with a new zoning amendment, and that's all that we're doing at this point, talking about the zoning amendment.
Okay, I yield.
Okay, thank you. Yields. Okay, is there someone else then, Mrs. Hilson?
Yes, so Mrs. Rosengren, Tammy.
Mrs. Rosenberg, are you?
Yes, I am here. We are separate right now due to other circumstances and we're not in the same meeting. We're sitting separately for the meeting, but anyways, thank you for the clarification on that, for not removing existing park models. We appreciate that. It should have been stated specifically in the beginning instead of sending such an uproar with all the residents who do own park models. Thank you for the clarification on that.
Mrs. Rosenberg, it was stated, it was in that report was sent out, and it was in there.
Okay, you're taking from my time right now. Thank you. I would like to finish speaking. Thank you for the clarification on that. The second thing I would like to point out is that I understand we have all worked very long days. Some of us are on the Lower Mainland, in Alberta, all over British Columbia, and we have all worked long days, as apparently so have the councillors and the mayor. They might have their own personal issues and jobs. Anyways, I would like to suggest that we possibly could have a Saturday meeting, whether we want to work Saturdays or not, but we need to finish this. And I would like to suggest that because I'm looking at some people that are very tired right now and nodding off that I can see on the screen. So in order for us to all be fully engaged in what's going on, to listen to everybody speaking, I would suggest a Saturday meeting once we move forward for the next meeting.
Thank you very much for your comments. Next, Mrs. Hilson.
Next would be Karen Somerset, and she has spoken, so if she has any new additional information.
Okay, Mrs. Somerset, do you have any new additional information you'd like to add? You've already spoken.
Actually, I do, and I'd like to bring to the attention of the council is that in my 2 lots that I own at Island View Resort, one of them is taxed as recreational and one is taxed as residential. The lot that is taxed as residential is the one that has my park model on it, and the second has a RV that resides on it. And I'm wondering if with all of this, the town is reconsidering the repayment to me for the residential taxes if they choose to go to recreational lots only within Island View Resort. And if that's not the case, then I'm guessing that they're viewing park models as residents or temporary residences for the owners that are in them, because there is a definite difference in the taxation that I'm paying between the 2 lots. I have that. I don't mind submitting that to the town to show them that. And I have been paying that for over 10 years between the 2 lots. So I'm concerned about that. I've paid a lot of taxes on a lot that has a park model on it, and the town has deemed as residential in their 01 taxation base and the recreational as 08. So I'm hoping the town looks at that also, because I don't think they've taken that into consideration at this point. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd just like to point out that it is not the town that sets it's BC assessment that does the assessment on the lots. It has nothing to do with the town. So we don't have any say in that. And it would be
if I may speak then, though, I do think though the town benefits from the difference between the 2 taxations that are based on those lots.
Good, thank you. We will certainly, we've got that written down. We are busy keeping notes of what.
Thank you.
And we will look at all of these things before we move any further in our discussions on this. Okay, do we have anyone else, Mrs. Hilson?
I currently do not have anybody else that has their virtual hand raised. Corey Dole has.
Corey has. I think we
if they have new information,
you're
permitted to speak. So
Mr. Dole, this would be the 3rd time that you're speaking. You have new information?
No, I just actually have a question. You've stated 2 different times now that our units will not be removed that are in location at this point in time, which I do really appreciate, because I have one of the units that is in place and it does not have a permit. Does council, or do you have plans on offering us the ability to get a permit and having somebody walk through and approve a permit so that I can retain the saleability of my unit and not extend a large loss in the unit? I'd like to hear your thoughts and considerations on that. Thank you.
So, Mr. Dole and everyone else that is listening, we are not here today to answer questions about individual lots or what we're going to do. We are taking this information. That's why we have a public hearing. We will absolutely look at it all again, and our planning department and our CAO and corporate officer and council will look at all of this information. Not today, and we're not answering questions today about it. But thank you. We will look at all of that information for sure. Okay. Do we have anyone else?
Yes, we do. We have Rhonda.
Rhonda, do you wish to speak?
Yes, I would, please.
Would you
Hello?
State your name and address?
Dan Renault, 2615 Lakeshore Drive, and my wife Rhonda. We just recently purchased at the Oasis in January, and due to affordability, we bought a space that has a travel trailer on it, and it's been in the community for the last 16 years, and it's getting close to its life cycle, and our plans are to put a park model on the property in such time that we can afford to. And that's great that everybody that has a park model is going to be allowed to keep theirs, but I'm hoping that we are going to be able to do the same as everyone else has been allowed to in the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, we have just 1 second. Here's Taylor Barnes.
Taylor, would you like to go ahead, please?
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Go ahead,
Hi,
please.
sorry. Hi there. Thank you for your time. I actually was in a conversation with BC Assessment yesterday because I too wanted to have some definition with the Island View RV Resort. I am an owner of 2 sites at the Island View RV Resort. Have never had a permanent put on the resort, have always rented our sites and use a trailer. In conversation with, I believe his name was Michael I can't remember his last name. He indicated, just to follow up what Karen Somerset had said, that one of her lots is deemed as recreational and the other one was residential. He indicated to me that things are going to change next year where all of the lots are all going to be deemed residential. So my concern is, because I've never put a unit on either one of our lots, that now it's going to be deemed residential and we're going to be paying higher taxes on a property where we're not even able to put anything permanent on if this goes through. So I have big concerns even as far as the tax bracket, because if a property sells with a park model or a mobile home in our lot, essentially the land value may be higher because it's a more attractive purchase for somebody to buy that's already grandfathered in. So the way that it was explained from BC Assessment to myself is that the value of 3 or 4 within a certain amount of time will be taken into consideration, minus what they deem the value of the permanent unit. That will base the land value of what the taxes are for the rest of the park, inclusive of bare land that does not have that curb appeal as a unit would with a permanent on it. So my concern is how that's going to affect myself as an owner of 2 lots down the road when I go to sell and possibly not be able to do what I might want to do with my lots down the road. I've been an owner since the park was made over at least 15 years ago. We bought before the park was even constructed. We were supposed to have a certain amount of land space. However, the city went in after we had purchased the lots. Our land space was lower due to roadways that were not taken into consideration with, I can't assume whether it was a city that didn't foresee the way that things were going to lay out with the building, but even down to when we purchased the property, we really got less value than what we paid for compared to other lots. So the whole thing is just upsetting to me as an owner, and to see maybe foreseeable value and what the land might be worth compared to other units with the permanent. And anyways, that's all I have to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. We will definitely contact BC Assessment if there are concerns about that, and our staff will do that, because it sounds like that might be something that we need to look into. So thank you to everyone. I will ask the public for the first time, if anyone wishes to speak to the application, to virtually raise their hand. I will ask for a second time, if anyone wishes to speak to the application, to virtually raise their hand. Oh, we have someone whose hand is raised. Mrs. Hilson?
Yes, it's Cassandra Russo.
Hi, good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for giving me a platform this evening. I had not originally planned on speaking, but after listening to all my neighbors' concerns that they've brought forward, I would also like to just let you know that, my husband and I, we are co-owners of 2615 Lakeshore Drive, a Oasis RV Resort. We purchased almost 8 years ago with a, semi-permanent trailer in place that is affixed to the property with a deck and an awning, not easily movable. But we did purchase the property with the intention of eventually putting a park model on the property and holding that property for many years to come, and something that we enjoy now with our young family and, into retirement many years down the road. And, with the idea of these park models potentially not being allowed going forward, the value of our property to us is significantly less than it would be otherwise. I mean, we've started looking at park models, we've started shopping, getting very excited about the idea of putting our dream vacation home there. And this whole idea is very upsetting. And I would also like to speak to the community that is our resort. The people that invest in these park models are people that take pride in ownership. These people maintain their properties immaculately. These people maintain the beach and the waterfront immaculately. These people are the ones that are walking down Lakeshore Drive and picking up trash off the sidewalk and putting it in a trash receptacle. They are looking after the town that they spend their summers in, that they spend their vacation time in. They are not only contributing financially to the town, but also contributing in a way that makes a Soyuz a destination where people want to be. And I please ask that you reconsider making these amendments. I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to notice that several people have said that they use local businesses and support local. We all do as well. So we appreciate that. It's something that we obviously tell everybody that we expect them to do. Shop local, support local, and contribute to the community. Very important. So thank you for bringing that up. So we don't have anyone else then, Mrs. Hilson?
No, we do not.
Okay, thank you. So I will go back to asking if anyone wishes to speak to the application for the first time to raise their hand. I will ask for the second time if there's anyone wishes to speak to the application to raise their hand. And I will ask for a third and final time if anyone wishes to speak to raise their hand. Seeing none, I'm sorry.
Tammy,
Is there someone there?
Yes, so Ms. Rosengren, Tammy, if she's got new information to provide.
I think we've heard from you a couple of times, Mrs. Rosenberg.
Yeah.
Do you have something new to add?
Well, yes, I know you've heard from me, but you just stated that you as counselors contribute to Soyuz in the town and doing everything as well. But we are all seasonal people. So you guys are full-time residents that live there, that work for council, that do everything in the city of Soyuz. And yes, you do it, but we are seasonal workers that also participate. So you're comparing apples to oranges when you say that, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you. And to quote a friend of mine, apples and oranges are both fruit. So we all contribute. And absolutely, we appreciate, we're a resort municipality. So of course we appreciate the people who come here seasonally and support our community as well. Absolutely, we do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for listening.
So I will go back and ask for a first time if there's anyone else wishing to speak. No, we have
Yes.
someone else.
John Hartford, he's already spoken, so.
Mr. Hartford, you've spoken twice already. Do you have something new that you'd like to add?
Just one quick thing. One of the things that was addressed was the emergency vehicles getting around. And I can't speak for any of the other parks, but at Oasis RV, we've had park models come in and they're 45 feet long. They're on semi pulling them, so they're like 60 feet long, and they get around our park just fine. So I don't think the fire trucks are any bigger than that, and the ambulances, we've never had an issue. So I just wanted to quash that problem, at least for our park. That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we will go again and ask for the, there's some, is that hand going down? Good. For the first time, anyone else wishes to speak, put their hand up. For the second time, anyone wishing to speak to put their hand up. And for the third and final time, anyone wishing to speak, raise their hand. Thank you. Hearing none, and seeing none, I will entertain a motion to close this public hearing and terminate the meeting.
So moved.
Councillor King, Councillor Harvey, all in